All right. Welcome to the podcast. Nancy, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. No, that's not true at all. A whole lot.
Yeah, before we got started, you were telling me about a lot of things going
on. A lot going on. I'm just over a month away from being a first-time grandma.
Tell us about that. That sounds absolutely crazy. I don't think I can get back into the kid mix again. But
I was devastated when it first came to me. The initial shock has worn off.
The initial shock is worn off. How does your daughter feel about it?
She's starting to get excited and nervous now because,
reality's hitting her?
Yeah, we went to a doctor's appointment yesterday and scheduled the C-section. So she's going to have the baby on November 17th. And she's excited. Her baby daddy is excited as well. And I feel like they're not scared enough.
Yeah.
Like, come on, guys. This is a scary thing. You're going to be first-time parents and you're teenagers. So it's going to be an interesting little experiment.
It's much more than an experiment because it's permanent. But
she. I had her when I was 19.
Yeah.
And because I have a dark sense of humor, I've always told her, don't have babies. Babies kill dreams. It's been like a running joke in our family. And so when she announced to me that she was pregnant, she's like, Mom, you had me when you were 19. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's to be done. And she says, don't worry, Mom, it's okay. I didn't have that many dreams anyway.
Jeez.
I was like, I walked into that one.
Looking at you, it's amazing to me that you're going to be a grandmother.
I
mean, you look so young.
Thank you. That's a good thing, yeah.
You look really, really young. Well, yeah, it's a big compliment. Sure.
Thank you.
We're the same age. I don't think I'm prepared to be a grandfather.
Yeah.
My son's only 11 years old, so I still think I got a little ways there, but... the big benefit, you're experiencing it now and she'll experience it as well, is that, you're going to get to enjoy your kids when you're still really young, and that's a nice thing. I have friends that are having kids in their 40s. Yeah.
That's why I can't imagine doing that now. Like people that are my age, friends of mine that are just now having their kids or they have little ones now. I'm like, oh my God, you know what? It's not the most ideal scenario to have them so young like I did, but I'm glad I did in the aspect that I'm too tired to have a baby right now. Like I couldn't keep up with them. Yeah. I was a kid when I had my kids, so I could keep up with them. It's a lot harder now. So.
I think I've mentioned this before on prior podcasts, but as a matter of fact, I know we discussed it last time. Being a grandma is a really, really, really key role in terms of helping, couples and stay together and relationships to be healthy because, my kid's grandma plays a very, very important role in his life. And I'm sure that you're going to be playing the same type of role in terms of being involved in stuff. But the nice thing about being a grandparent is that at the end of the day, if you want the kid to go, give him back. He's out of there.
And that's what I keep telling her. I'm like, hey, I raised my kids. I'm done. So, babysitting, sure. But that's about it.
That's about it. All right. Well, one of the things that we're going to try to do beginning this week for, as we try to continue improving our podcast and moving forward is to kind of segment things out a little bit more. Make it more like a real, not real, but more of a traditional show, right? And I don't want to we've never been scripted. You and I never talk about anything prior to getting here, really, other than extremely high-level stuff, which is the way that I think is the way to manage these podcasts, because I think podcasts really do have to be different from, radio shows and so on and so forth. But that doesn't mean we can't have a little structure in our lives, right? So like you and I discussed off the air, we talked about segmenting it a little bit. Some of the things that I think we should do is maybe, we'll talk about current events, which we always do. Yeah. Maybe talk a little bit about sports. A lot of the people that do listen to the show are into sports. So we'll dabble in that a little bit. And then we'll do a couple of real creative things that we'll dive into later on. Like one segment that I want, I think you should run is kind of discussing hypotheticals and what ifs kind of questions and scenarios that I think are really thought-provoking. So we'll go through that. So I guess we'll get into our first segment. Let's just talk about current events. One of the big things that recently hit the news was Lamar Odom. Are you aware of what's going on with this gentleman?
I am aware that he fell out in a brothel, right?
He fell out in a brothel. Apparently he got there. For those of you who don't know, Lamar Odom is a former NBA star.
Oh, he's not playing anymore? I'm not aware of that.
No, he's not.
I don't follow sports ball.
Sports ball, right? No, he's no longer playing. He's only 35 years old, I believe, so he could play if he wanted to, but he kind of crashed and burned pretty hard towards the end of his career. He's played for a number of teams. He actually played for the Miami Heat for a year or two, and he was great down here. Then he went on to the I think it was the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's really where he loved playing. One of the things that really affected him mentally, amongst a bunch of things, was the fact that the Lakers were looking to trade him. Yeah. And he really, really loved playing on that squad, and he loved playing with Kobe Bryant, who's known around the league as being a pretty difficult guy to play with.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he took that real hard, and then the timing wasn't great because he was involved with the Kardashian,
Which
succubus.
Seems to be, it seems to be anybody who's involved with them, their life kind of spirals downward.
That's the thing. Yeah, I saw one of those memes or memes, whatever. Memes. Meme. Oh, yep. One of those memes. I always have trouble with that word. I saw one of those memes online the other day where it kind of listed out all the men that have been associated with these Kardashian women. Yep. And I mean, they're like chupacabras. I mean, they're really, really, really bad news. These women.
They really do. They suck the life out of people.
They do. You either end up getting some cancer, or you end up going into drug addiction, or you go broke, or your career falls apart. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. But Lamar Odom in particular is kind of sad because he's actually known around the league as being a really, really nice guy. Yeah. And when you see something so awful happen to a really nice person, it's sad. Yeah. It's sad. But yeah, he was at one of these bunny ranches or whatever in Las Vegas.
In Vegas.
He had done some coke before he got there.
Oh, is that what I heard was that he was taking some kind of herbal
Viagra. Yeah. So supposedly what the girls there are saying is that he did announce that he did do some coke before he got there. Okay. And then he started getting into the herbal Viagras. Right. I have no idea how those work. I know all about the chemical stuff, but I don't know anything about the herbal.
From what I read, it seems, which just completely contradicts the purpose of it, it seems that it drastically reduces your blood pressure, and it also restricts blood flow to various organs. And
that's so weird. So what does it do? Reallocate it to your genitals?
I guess so. I'm like,
that's
okay, well, isn't that what it should be doing? Is getting the blood flow to your organs? But I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so who knows these things? Only the Oracle.
Only the Oracle.
So yeah, it is very sad because he's on life support now?
He's knocking on death's door. I mean, I read today that he got a little bit better. But he's still, he's still full of tubes, and he's not conscious or anything. So, hopefully the guy pulls out of it. But definitely that he's an example of a tremendous fall from grace. Because like I said, just a couple years ago, he was in the NBA. He, was getting paid millions of dollars, and in a very, very, very short period of time, I think his best friend passed away.
Yeah, that was something I read too. That it hit him so hard that kind of really triggered a whole lot of downward spiral.
Yeah, that really screwed him up, and now he's basically, like I said, he's knocking on death's door. So it got me thinking. There have been quite a few pretty big falls from grace. Mm-hmm. Could you think of any like big athletes or celebrities that were literally up here one minute and are just completely in the gutter now? I have a few that I wrote down. I just want to see if they match up with yours.
I have several. I actually have one that comes to mind that was redeemed. Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. You're right.
He was one that we've always loved him, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody loves Robert Downey Jr. And he was a heroin addict and went to prison. And there was a period of time that it was going to, it was very possible he was going to be the next statistic. And, thanks to Iron Man and Jon Favreau, he came back. Yeah. So that's a good one. That's a story of redemption. You don't hear that a lot, but Charlie Sheen is one. But I feel like Charlie Sheen's always been a hot mess.
He goes up and down, though. He goes up and down. He went through that Tiger Blood episode?
Yeah. I was totally obsessed with him at that point. He did
was awesome.
A tour, national tour.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually went. It was hilarious. It was just him sitting on stage.
Oh, he did a one-man show? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did a national tour. He would, every city was a little different. And when he came here, he literally sat on the stage on a chair, like a Barcalounger, and just chit-chatted with the audience. And then he had special guests. So Dennis Rodman showed up. And then Jeff Ross came on and just roasted the hell out of Charlie Sheen and Dennis Rodman for an hour.
That's hilarious.
So it was pleasant. And then it was funny because in front of the arena where it was happening, there was a big protest. People were protesting that he was there. I'm like, this is pandemonium, but he embraced it and, winning, all that nonsense.
Yeah,
I loved it. I was obsessed
Me
with
too.
him.
He was an amazing Twitter follow for like, I don't know, maybe a period of like 2 or 3 months where he was completely out of his mind.
Oh, yeah, completely.
And now he's really, he's kind of gone a little more conservative. He's out of the news.
It's only a matter of time before it happens again.
Before he blows up again.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. He's a good one, though. I love the Robert Downey Jr. one because it's great to see guys. He actually lived a movie role that he played. He was like less than zero. He was basically that guy. If you ever saw that movie,
Yeah.
great 80s flick. If you haven't seen it. He basically burned down in that movie, and that's what he ended up doing in real life. It's crazy.
Yep.
I made a list of like the Mount Rushmore of huge falls from grace. People that literally had the world in the palm of their hand and just fizzled out. So the first one is Aaron Hernandez. Do you remember Aaron Hernandez?
Aaron Hernandez, is that the one that's on? Is he on death row now?
I don't think he's on death row yet. I think he's still going through several trials. But yeah, he was the ex New England Patriot tight end
that is apparently a murderer.
Oh, he's a gangster.
Yeah.
He had signed I think it was a $47 million deal, but he decided that despite having this beautiful home and this wonderful life, and I think he had a kid on the way, or he had just had a child. I don't know which of the two it is. He was playing in the best organization in the NFL with arguably the greatest quarterback of all time throwing in the ball. He decided that he had to keep things real.
Right.
So his way of keeping things real was going out and murdering people. He murdered a supposed friend of his over who knows what. And then they're tying him to a couple of other shootouts in Boston, like from 2012.
Yeah.
But that's a guy, like I said, literally an all-pro, massive, the world is at his feet kind of guy, and he just fell really hard. So Aaron Hernandez goes on that Mount Rushmore.
Oh, yeah.
Lindsay Lohan
my God.
is another one. This girl.
That girl. I watched, I don't know why I watched it. I don't watch reality TV. I don't. But for some reason, I was so intrigued by Oprah's special that she had. It was like an 8-episode run, and it was following Lindsay Lohan. And that girl is a disaster.
It's a disaster, I know.
Oh, my God. Like, besides the drugs and alcohol, that's a big issue for her. But she is so mentally unstable, which I think is what, she has daddy issues. She has major daddy issues. And she has mommy issues, too. But her dad's a hot mess, too. Her dad was on Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew. And, addiction is...
He's a celebrity because of his daughter?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
He was her manager for a while. And then the parents split up, and then the mom became the manager. But, addiction is a genetic issue as well. So he blames himself for her having addiction issues and whatever. So couple that with her mental instability...
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So addiction can be passed down through your genes?
Yep, absolutely.
Really? Huh. So you can pass down like alcoholism?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I was completely unaware of that. I got to look into that.
Yeah, it's a genetic disease. That's one of the reasons why I've been very cognizant of watching that element of my personality, because my mother is an addict.
Wow.
And so, I fear, falling into those traps. So, if you have an addictive personality, I think in some ways everybody does. It just depends on if their addiction is to something positive or negative,
Interesting.
But definitely with substance abuse, she inherited it. Plus, becoming such a celebrity at such a young age, and not having guidance. She had her mom who really exploited her kids just for her own benefit. And then her dad, who was an addict and just whack job himself.
Oh,
So
her dad
she
was messed up too. Well, you
yeah.
definitely know a lot about her. I mean, she was just, at one point, she was like one of those America sweetheart kind of girls.
Yeah.
And it just
She
seems
was
like...
the highest paid actress for a little while.
Yeah, and it just seems like overnight
Yeah.
crashed and burned. So she goes on the Mount Rushmore. This one's a little older, but this guy's a particular... This guy goes in the center of the Mount Rushmore.
I feel like I know who you're going to say.
O.J. Simpson.
I knew it.
Did you really? I should have asked you who you thought I was talking about.
I knew it was O.J. Simpson.
This guy's a special kind of stupid.
Oh, my God.
He's a special kind of stupid
Yeah.
because, first and foremost, it's funny because I remember working at ITI, working in the call center back when the original trial was going on.
Yeah.
And I remember, being in discussions about it because everybody had their opinion, guilty or not guilty, right?
Right.
I was in the not guilty camp.
Really?
I really was. I was so naive. I was like, there's no way he did it. This guy's a celebrity. I always had the mindset of, and I fall into the trap that I think a lot of people do, which is he's got millions of dollars. He's got all the money in the world. Why the hell is someone with those kinds of riches
Yeah.
and that kind of a lifestyle and that kind of a world, why is that person going to jeopardize everything they have over, some restaurant, some dude at a restaurant,
Right.
a waiter, banging his wife or ex-wife at the time, I
Ex-wife,
think.
right.
Because if it was his wife, then maybe I can see a total, rage.
Yeah, he just snapped. Yeah.
He just snapped. But this was different. They were, they were already estranged
Yep.
and the whole thing. And he killed. So I was in the naive camp of, there's no way he did it. And I, fought tooth and nail. And the glove did it not fitting really swayed my opinion as well. That guy just had amazing lawyers. Amazing lawyers that got him off.
You know what? I think part of it is also the fame, because I feel like if he could have had the greatest lawyers in the world, and if it wasn't such a media circus and he didn't have the fame behind him, he still would have been found guilty because he is clearly guilty.
Clearly guilty. Oh, in retrospect, I feel so stupid because I'm like, clearly guilty. I mean, when you write a book that says, if I had done it,
I would have done it exactly the way it happened.
look at the blueprint.
Have you
here and
ever
everything.
seen the crime scene photos?
No.
Yeah, I have, again, the whole darkness. I have a morbid curiosity with true crime, and I have actually actively sought out the crime scene photos. They are graphic. I mean, she was pretty much almost decapitated.
Oh my God.
And that was rage. So even though they weren't together, I think one of the things that came up at one point was he bought her a car or something at some point, and Ron Goldman was driving it, and he saw him, and that kind of triggered a little bit of a flip out, and then it just kind of escalated from there. And he apparently did a radio interview after the tapes were just released, like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. He did a radio interview after the civil trial, which he was found guilty, which I find very strange. He's found not guilty in the criminal trial, but the civil trial, he's found guilty. And in the audio tapes, there's one segment where they're talking about the shoes. And the shoes that there was a shoe print in the blood. Mm-hmm. And the particular shoes, there was only like 200 pair in the entire country that were sold.
Yes, they were Italian shoes.
Right.
I remember that they were dress shoes.
And he kept claiming that, no, I would never own those shoes. And then like hundreds of pictures came out with him wearing those exact shoes.
Yeah, they were something like, it starts with the letter B, Brunali's or
something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember. But yeah, it was only like 200 of them. And he claimed, he even said in this radio interview where he was like, I would never own shoes that are so ugly.
Right.
And then after that, people were coming out with different photos, media outlets, and
of him wearing the shoes,
wearing the exact same shoes in different scenarios. Like he's at a restaurant, he's at a football game, he's wearing the damn shoes.
Oh no, guilty as sin. It's
sure.
So ridiculous how guilty. The whole Bronco escape and please, this guy.
That's crazy.
But again, he's another guy. When keeping it real goes wrong because he gets acquitted.
Right.
He gets acquitted, and he does lose the civil case. But because he was an NFL player, he had an NFL pension.
Right.
And even when you're found guilty in civil court and you're liable for all these, liquid damages, they can't touch your pension.
Nope.
So he was getting somewhere in the ballpark of like $300,000 a year.
Yeah.
He had a house in Kendall, and I actually drove by his house several times because I used to play golf in a golf course out there called Calusa. It's still there. It's it's a very, very friendly golf course in terms of it's not overly challenging like Doral and even Shula's. And that's important for golfers like me who are not very good.
Yeah.
Because when there's a lot of like water hazards and stuff like that, it really makes the game frustrating. But anyway, Calusa's a really, really great, friendly, wide open course. So I love going there, and it was pretty affordable. Well, every time I would go with my buddies, guess who was playing there?
Oh, wow, really?
O.J. Simpson. We saw him all the time. I never approached him. I mean, he's a monster. Right. I had no interest in shaking the guy's hand and giving him a high five. But he was there all the time. He'd even hang out in the the little restaurant area.
Yeah.
And he'd just chill out there and be having a beer and having lunch. And people were going up to him. You see, randomly people would go up and ask him for his autograph and stuff like that. And he was eating it up.
Of course.
But he had basically no bills. His life was playing golf. His house was paid. And he was getting a $300,000 pension. You know what? And you got away with murder. It's time to lay low, dude. You know, just lay low. Don't be stupid.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
you know, he does the thing in Vegas. He goes over there. He claims that someone had stolen some memorabilia from him.
Yeah, so I'm going to steal it back.
Yeah, I'm going to steal it back with my friends toting guns.
Right.
Real good move.
Idiot.
I'm glad that
I am.
that dude is basically going to be behind bars for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess, karma does work.
Oh yeah, it's a bitch. And
Yeah.
supposedly he actually gets his ass kicked in there quite a bit.
I can
and
imagine.
Yeah, like he's a celebrity, so you know those guys are going to want to fuck with him.
Oh,
so.
for sure.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that he's guilty, because I don't think there's a single person on this planet that doesn't believe that he's guilty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so he's not having a good time, but he deserves it. He's a monster.
sure
Deserves it.
does.
So that guy deserves to be in the center of the fall from grace. Because again, he had the world at his feet. He was working for NBC, had a
Yep.
great job, the most amazing reputation, doing movies.
Yeah,
he was on the
Naked Gun.
Naked Gun. You know, I mean, this guy had it all.
Yep.
Idiot. My last guy is one that's been fairly recent, but this is the fourth member of my Mount Rushmore, Bill Cosby.
Oh.
Now, this is a guy
Yeah.
who for decades, I mean, you're talking 40, 50 plus years, was internationally recognized as one of the greatest comedians that's ever lived.
Yep.
Beloved doing the Jell-O commercials. He was, Dr. Huxtable on one of the most,
Fat Albert.
Fat Albert, family-friendly shows. I mean,
Yeah.
all his stand-up clean jokes. He was
Yeah.
always lecturing people on not,
He was America's father.
He was. He
Yeah.
really was, or at least one of them. I mean, he was way, way, way up there. And another guy who now, I'm not going to go through the same naivete that I did with
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson. This dude's guilty.
Oh, totally.
Guilty as hell.
Totally.
Did you see that magazine cover? It might have been Time or People, one of these. But you can probably look it up. They posted, the magazine cover had like 30 of his victims. They all agreed to pose for a magazine cover. And I think it might have been Time. But if you look up like Cosby's victims pose on magazine cover, and it is a startling cover because you realize the depth of
They all did
his
an
cruelty
interview
and
together.
his
People
evil.
magazine.
Is
Wait.
it People?
Hold on, wait. They all did an interview, I think, on like Dateline or something like that. New York Magazine.
Was it New York
It
Magazine?
says New York Magazine. Yeah, New York Magazine.
Yeah, that cover
Yep.
is shocking
Yep.
because that's where it really hits you how demonic this guy was and how many
And
women.
I'm sure there's hundreds more that are just
oh yeah,
not willing
that
to come out.
haven't come forward yet.
Because one of the issues that is a big topic, people are saying, why did it take them so long to come out? And they must be lying. And I've had this conversation with several people. And, my answer to that is, first of all, you have no idea what it's like to be sexually assaulted. Then to be sexually assaulted by somebody who, number one, you probably looked up to. And number two, everyone in the country looks up to. You're going to be accused of being a liar, being, money hungry or something. And then, it took the one person, the first one to come out. And that's where these people get the strength to do it because now they're banding together. They feel like they're not alone. I completely agree. I think he's completely guilty. And it makes me sad that it's very possible that he will never see a day in jail just because of the statute of limitations on a lot of this stuff. So I'm hoping that, there is some karma for him because it's awful.
Yeah,
It's really bad.
Yeah, and look at the age that it happened to him. Too. He was fortunate that this wasn't happening in today's day and age because today nobody gets away with shit. Everything is Twitter, everything is Facebook, everything. I mean, the minute something funky happens, people are looking to get paid. People are looking to expose and put themselves in the limelight, even if it means admitting to something as personal and as hurtful as, being sexually assaulted. Well, back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
It was everyone just kept their mouth shut and you just went about, you went about your business.
Yep.
So he's fortunate in that regard. I agree with you 100%. Nothing's going to happen. I mean, I don't think they can bring any criminal proceedings against him at this point. And he's what, 80? I don't know how old the guy is.
I want to say 77.
70. Okay, yeah. So he's 70s, 80s, whatever it is. He's lived the life, He's done.
And in all reality, somebody like that, a rapist, a career rapist, doesn't just stop.
A serial rapist.
Serial rapist.
Yeah.
So, he's probably been doing it up until recently.
I hope he does some of that herbal Viagra. It seems to work pretty good.
Yeah. I think, if someone who has been victimized by him recently enough that the statute of limitations hasn't run out, then I think that will be the only way, but I doubt that he's just stopped.
Yeah, and it's only going to take one, right?
Uh-huh.
Because since everyone's aware, any jury, any judge is going to be like, "Oh, we're going to get you for all of them."
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
That
Absolutely.
one, we're going to go max on everything. I hope you're right because again, that kind of man,
It's
excuse
disgusting.
me, it's disgusting. He's an animal. He deserves to go down. But again, on the topic of fall from grace,
Yeah,
that guy
really.
was.
I feel like he should be in the center.
He might be the guy leading the charge, right? He
Yeah.
might be the George Washington of that.
Because not only is there a fall from grace, but then there's the aspect that it was like complete 180
Yeah.
from his personality.
Yeah, and it wasn't even him hurting himself. It was him hurting other people.
Right.
Unlike Lamar Odom and,
Right.
Whatever. Some of the other guys that have fallen, like Robert Downey Jr., who were really
Right.
hurting themselves. They weren't
Right.
really hurting other people.
Right.
Some of these monsters were just, Aaron Hernandez, Bill Cosby, murderers, rapists,
Yeah. And-
Simpson, murder. I mean, these are bad
Right.
people.
But you see, like Aaron Hernandez and O.J. Simpson, they're NFL players, right? So
Mm-hmm.
NFL, especially now, has a bad reputation for kind of churning out the criminals,
Yeah.
right?
And they say the brain trauma stuff is real, like
Oh,
in terms
yeah.
of everybody being affected by it.
I
A
believe
lot of
it.
these guys probably have some chemical imbalances. That's actually
I'm sure.
a good point.
Yeah, so I
That you brought
think
up.
that because Bill Cosby comes from a different world,
Mm-hmm.
you would nobody would have ever said, yeah, Bill Cosby's a rapist. And you know what? What really came out, like in 2006 or something, was when the first accusation came out, and it disappeared.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it was, in the news, and it just went away. And Hannibal Buress, who's a comedian, made a comment right before, probably like maybe 2 weeks before the first accuser finally came out recently. And he made a comment in an interview of some kind where he mentioned it. And he said, I don't understand why everybody forgot that he's a rapist. And people were like, what are you talking about? And he said, Google it. 2006, he was accused, and it disappeared. And so he made a comment about him being a rapist, and a rapist. And I looked at I Googled it, and I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, I remember when it happened, and it just left everybody's mind. And then this happened. So I think that Hannibal Buress making that comment kind of triggered a whole new investigation, and people going, you know what, the people are paying attention, so now these women are coming out, and in droves, every day there's new accusers, and I'm sure there's hundreds.
Probably.
Yeah.
And he didn't need to do that. You're Bill Cosby. You can have all the tail you want.
He is a sick man.
He's a sick man. So that's the Mount Rushmore. Just a few more quick honorable mentions before we move off the subject.
Dishonorable.
Just because I think it's such an interesting topic to me because when you think of all of these people, they're all, again, from a societal perspective, they're successful.
Mm-hmm.
They're wealthy. You look at them from the outside, looking in, and you're thinking, these guys have everything,
Yeah.
right? And these things kind of serve as a reminder that, money and fame and those different things. I mean, I think that the shine wears off of that so quick, especially money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of myself personally when I've gone from one job to the next, and we all go through where you get your promotion. Well, think about when you get a promotion or when you get a new job and, you were making $30,000 a year. Now you're making $38,000 a year. And you remember the thrill of, I'm getting an extra $8,000 and I can do all this stuff. I mean, after your second or third paycheck, you're like, okay, well, this is my new norm.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that happens. I think you can multiply that on a much grander scale, and the effect is probably the same. You go from making, $500,000 to $3 million a year. Yeah, at first it's probably exhilarating.
Yeah.
But in very short order, that $3 million becomes your new norm.
Yeah.
So your house was 1,000 square feet. Now it's 8,000 square feet. Okay, that's great. And at first, like I said, probably thrilling.
Yeah.
But then after a while, you just got a bunch of empty rooms you're not going to really use.
Yep.
Right? So,
That's true.
Anyway, Oscar Pistorius, do you remember that guy?
Yes, he's actually, I just read a story this morning. He's set for release in the next few days.
Unbelievable. Blade
Runner,
Runner, whatever they call them. Incredible. Because that guy was a worldwide icon
Yeah.
for what he had accomplished. And from 1 minute, his life is ruined. Like that guy's
totally.
that
Never
guy's garbage.
gonna
On
recover
top of the
from
fact
that.
on top of the fact he killed somebody, he deserves what he's getting.
Yeah.
But that guy, huge fall from grace. Tiger Woods.
Oh, Tiger Woods.
Tiger
And
Woods
Tiger
was the
Woods
king.
all because of his wiener. That's it.
Yeah, couldn't keep it in his pants.
Couldn't keep it in his pants.
Couldn't keep it in his pants, and that guy was the king.
Yeah.
He was on pace to become easily, hands down, no questions asked, the greatest golfer that's ever lived.
And the funny thing is his ever since this whole thing came out, his game has significantly suffered.
He's horrible.
Yeah.
He's horrible. He's not even top 100 right now.
No. And it's funny because
That's a fact. He's not ranked in the top 100.
how can that be? Is it a mental thing? I
Mental,
wonder.
for sure. He's psychologically damaged because he does have some physical ailments. He does have a lot of back problems, right? But when he's healthy and he's playing, he's horrible. I mean, he's absolutely horrible. I think it's got to be mental, but or a big portion of it.
Yeah.
Huge fall from grace.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, out of all the guys we've discussed so far, he's probably the one that least deserves it.
Yeah.
So he was unfaithful. Okay, that's not cool, but I mean, it happens all the time.
I don't feel bad for the guy,
Yeah.
but you're right. He did probably the least damage as far as hurting himself and people. Doing like morally reprehensible stuff. Adultery is kind of low on the totem pole compared to the other ones that we talked about. So yeah.
Like you said, to really simplify it, just couldn't keep his wiener in his pants. That's all. Two more guys. Joe Paterno. I don't know if do you know who Joe Paterno is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he was considered in Pennsylvania, particularly on his university campus. He was a living god, Statues everywhere.
Yep. They took him down, right?
Oh yeah, they took everything down.
Yep.
His name he's been disgraced.
Disgraced forever.
He's been disgraced. And when he realized what was happening and it was all unfolding, I mean, he died within 12 months of the whole scandal breaking.
Yep.
And he really didn't commit any of those horrible crimes. It was his coach, Sandusky, the guy that worked for him.
Yeah.
Right, but he knew about it.
He knew about it,
and he didn't say anything, which is, in my opinion, you're just as guilty.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you're just as guilty.
I agree.
So, what a fall! He was literally a god. He probably would have retired as the greatest, college football coach in history.
Yeah.
And now you can't even say his name. His name is associated with like shit.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens. You can have decades of positive influence in the world, and one thing comes out, and
You're
that's
done.
it. It flips it for you.
You're done.
Yeah.
He impacted in a very positive way so many lives because, I mean, outside of those kids that were being molested by that monster, when it was just Paterno, with his football players and the charities that he was involved with, and all the philanthropy, he was awesome.
Yeah.
He was awesome, but he kept a really bad secret to protect a really bad man.
Yeah.
And it ruined him. I mean, it pretty much cost him his life because he couldn't even live with himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he died within nothing.
Yeah.
So, last guy, Mel Gibson. So this was another guy that I love. Like, my favorite movie of all time is Braveheart. Love Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
He was at such a high, pedestal. And what's Mel Gibson now? He's like a
misogynist, anti-Semite.
Yep.
Big.
Yeah, bigot. He's a really, really interesting guy because he had the world at his feet, and
he's another one that, like, I'm completely fascinated by. I've always loved Mel Gibson. It's, for me, it's very, as much as I know what a pig he is and what a bigot he is, it's so hard for me to dislike him.
Yeah, you're like, dude, you're William Wallace. Come on.
I still watch Lethal Weapon and I'm loving it, you know? And I'm like, oh, I want to see stuff that he's in, It's just, it's so hard for me. And normally I'm not like that. If there's a celebrity that does something really nasty or just, has some kind of moral compass that's askew, I don't watch their stuff. I won't listen to the music. If it's a musician, I just boycott it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Mel Gibson is still I have a special place in my heart.
You're
for
right.
That bastard.
I love the guy too.
Yeah.
I loved the guy. I'm not. Let me be honest. I don't dislike the guy now because I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'll still watch a movie of his if it comes out. He just hasn't done anything since everything broke out.
Yeah.
He
hasn't done a couple things.
He has done a few, but they've been terrible.
Yeah.
They've been terrible.
He was in was it Expendables 3?
Maybe I don't watch.
I think he was like the
Expendables.
villain in Expendables 3, and then he
Appropriate.
was in some movie called The Beaver that was directed by Jodie Foster, where he was like a puppeteer or something. That's like the only two things that I've seen him
Fall from grace.
do. Crazy, yeah. Funny
Anyway,
stuff.
so Mel Gibson. We talked a lot about politics last week, and there was actually a pretty significant political event that took place a couple days ago in the news, which was the Democratic national debate. Did you have a chance to catch it?
I did not.
I need you to start watching these things. You need to get plugged in. You need to know what's going on.
I told you I need to get
with our
caught
leaders.
up on my political.
Come
know-how.
on.
Yeah, I
What did you hear about it?
Honestly,
I'm glad you didn't watch it because I'd like to know from the perspective of someone who didn't watch it what your perception of it was based on what you're hearing in the media.
Here's the funny thing, and I don't know if it has to do with the number of candidates that are Democratic versus Republican. I have not heard nearly as much about the I didn't even know until 2 days after that there was even a debate.
Wow.
Or a day and a half after.
Okay.
The Republican debate, I knew like 3 days before. And that's just because I heard so much. People were anticipating it, the Trump craziness, you know. So what I've heard, the little that I've heard, was basically that it was pretty boring, pretty bland, and not a whole, I mean, I guess I saw somebody said something about Hillary responding to several issues that needed to be responded to, and then the rebuttal to that was the only reason why that was responded to was because Bernie Sanders brought him up, I think. Am I wrong? I don't know. I didn't see, so I don't
You're
know.
in the ballpark.
But that's all I've heard about it, and I haven't really kind of dug deeper into it.
Okay, so interesting. That's an interesting perspective. So it was boring, but Hillary did a really good job, and that's something you're hearing a lot. I'm not a Hillary fan, but she did do a good job in the sense that she conducted herself with a lot of confidence. She appeared very positive, and she appeared like she was in charge.
Yeah.
You know, so in that regard, she appeared quote unquote presidential, right? In terms of substance. Very little substance.
Yeah.
A lot of, talking points and stuff like that. And all politicians are guilty of that, to be very frank. In the Republican debates, it wasn't much different.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I like Carly Fiorina from the Republican side, and I hadn't really heard or known a lot about her until the debate, but one of the things I liked about her was when she was asked a question, she gave you bullet point answers. Like, for example, what are you going to do to fix the economy? I would do A, B, C, D, E. Details, she was completely prepared, and that's because she comes from a corporate background.
Yeah.
When you come from a corporate background and you're an executive, especially at the levels that she's been, that's basically the way that you operate.
Right.
So she was operating as a corporate executive in a political setting, and I loved it. I love someone that was giving you that much detail. So I'm a big fan of hers. But that's atypical. Typically what you're going to see is what Hillary did and what Bernie Sanders did, and it was a boring debate. It was essentially, I think, there were 5 people on stage. They're all friends, so they weren't going after each other.
Okay.
The moderator was Anderson Cooper. He was awesome.
I love him.
Yeah, he's awesome. He did such a great job. He hit him with some hard questions.
Yeah.
The first question he asked in the debate was to Hillary. The first question was, are you going to do whatever it takes? Are you willing to say anything to get elected? Basically insinuating that you change, because she's been changing her positions on several key issues.
Yeah.
And the perception that now she's starting to get is that she'll say whatever it takes based on whatever the polls are saying.
Right.
That's where her opinion is going to be.
Yeah.
So Anderson's first question was, would you just say anything to get elected?
Wow.
Interestingly enough, she never answered the question. She
Really?
never said yes or no. I mean, she gave a great answer in terms of, oh, this is who I am, but she never directly answered the question, which I found kind of interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
And he didn't call her on that? On the fact that she didn't answer?
No, he didn't call her on that because, again, it was a pretty smooth response. I believe that the reason Hillary lost against Barack in 2008 was because of the debates. Because she had a substantial lead on Barack Obama before they had... Nobody knew who Barack Obama was.
Right.
And he had a couple of things working against him,
Yeah.
Man of color, he had a funky Muslim name. I mean, those are not things that you needed in 2008 to become president.
Exactly.
And he overcame all of that. So he wasn't a front runner, but he very quickly took over because, number one, he had a huge, intelligent marketing campaign. He was amazing with social media.
Yeah.
They were great with that. They dominated that. And he crushed her in the debates.
Yeah.
I mean, Hillary looked at times like she felt that she was just entitled to the nomination because she's Hillary and it was her time. And along comes this dude who is a constitutional lawyer who teaches at Harvard. That guy's going to be prepared to debate.
Yeah.
And he crushed her. He made her look stupid. I think there was one debate where she even started tearing up.
Wow.
Not because he was crushing her so bad, but one of the answers was like one of these kind of sentimental answers.
Yeah.
Where they say, and as I look out into the audience, I see Joe Smith, who just came back from Iraq. They always do that. A dog and pony show.
Yeah.
Well, she did one of those, and she actually teared up, and it really looked weak. And it's like, you don't want your president crying on TV.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange. So I think she learned from that. She was really good. She's going to be really, really tough to beat.
I think so too.
She's going to be really, really tough to beat. So we'll see how everything plays out. Hopefully Trump goes away, and there's a decent candidate to oppose her, but she's going to be tough because she's not going to lose New York. She's not going to lose California. She's not going to lose Massachusetts. These are big states with huge electorates.
Yeah.
And the Electoral College is really what decides who wins elections.
Right.
And she's going to have that cornered pretty much. It's going to be tough to beat her. A Republican is going to basically have to take all the swing states to beat her.
Yeah.
You're going to have to take Pennsylvania. You got to take Ohio. You got to take Florida. You got to take Colorado. You got to take New Mexico. And no Republican has done that in a long time.
And I think that at this point, the only one that might be poised to do it would be Fiorina. I think Trump will go away. Mm-hmm. I think Jeb will go away. Marco Rubio. I think that because there's still so much love for how she handled the Republican debate, unless some crazy thing happens between now and the election, I think we may just have some kind of history happening again.
Yeah, I love her. I don't know that she's going to be able to get the nomination, the Republican nomination, because she's got a huge boner for Planned Parenthood. I mean, her whole thing is taking that shit down, and it's like, stop, shut your mouth about that.
Yeah, she really does need to shut up about that.
She needs to shut up, but she doesn't. She's making it basically, it's starting to look like she's making it the centerpiece of her campaign, and that's a bad move. Yeah. So I don't know that she's going to be able to overcome that. Believe it or not, you mentioned Rubio. Believe it or not, I think that guy is a big threat because he's young. He's very, very, very intelligent. Mm-hmm. He's extremely good in debating. He's his command of foreign policy, in my opinion, is greater than Hillary's, and she was the Secretary of State.
Right.
I mean, that's how fluid this guy is with his foreign policy knowledge. He's got good ideas on fiscal policy. I don't like him personally because his position on social issues is ridiculous. Yeah. And I hate that. But I refuse to vote for a president based on how they feel about, gay people getting married. Yeah. I'm not doing that. I support gay marriage, but I'm not going to cast my vote based on what's going to happen to my kids, based on the decisions these guys are making because, he supports gay marriage or opposes. I think that's a silly reason to decide your next president. So he's Latino. Yeah. He speaks Spanish. There's going to be a shit ton of Spanish commercials going out. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of these states, look at California. How many Latinos are out there?
Yeah.
Arnold,
you might be right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor of California. He's a Republican. Yeah. He ran as a Republican. Yeah.
But I think in that aspect, I really believe, going back to the whole fame issue, I think fame helped his nomination because it's California. And
well, Rudy Giuliani was the governor of or the mayor of New York.
New York, yeah.
Republican. Yeah. It could happen. You never know.
It could.
But
absolutely.
Keep an eye on Rubio. But yeah, she's going to be tough to beat. If you had to put your money on somebody, it's probably going to be her. Yeah. Very, very tough to beat. We'll see how it goes, but she really conducted herself pretty well.
Did they mention the email scandal at all?
Yeah, they did, and that was actually kind of the highlight because Bernie Sanders, who also did really well in terms of his presentation and delivery, but he's a crazy loon. I mean, this guy is. His answer to everything is give everything away. It's like, what we need to do to fix the economy is increase our entitlement spending. Like, that's literally one of his ideas. And you're like, what is this guy talking about? He's got a real good heart. You can tell he does. But he's an admitted socialist. As a matter of fact, Anderson Cooper asked him, you've described yourself as a democratic socialist. Do you consider yourself a socialist? And Bernie Sanders was like, yep.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's going to be hard for a self-described socialist to win an election in America. But he saved Hillary's ass on the emails because Anderson did ask her about the emails. She gave a response and she tried to deflect. And then Bernie Sanders, he even said before he bailed her out, he said, this is not a good political move. This might not be good politics, but I'm going to say it anyway. We need to drop the stupidity with the emails and forget about Hillary's email issues because we need to talk about real problems.
That's surprising.
Not emails. Yeah, he basically bailed her out. She high-fived him and everything.
Wow.
She was thankful. So he really hurt himself. But I think, like I said at the beginning, all 5 of the people that were on that stage are friends. Right. They really are friends. O'Malley, Bernie Sanders, obviously, Hillary, Lincoln, I forget his last name, Chetney or whatever his name
I've
is.
never even heard of these people.
No, they're all friends. Like,
Yeah.
they're friends. And I think what they might have been, doing up there, especially maybe even Bernie, was, kind of lobbying for some...
For VP?
Or VP, or I don't think Bernie will go VP, but maybe O'Malley will. But or lobbying for some sweet ambassador positions.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being appointed the ambassador in Barcelona for
Yeah.
Spain? That's a sweet gig. Those
Yeah.
guys make good money. They go live in Spain.
Yeah.
That's a great place to retire. And there's no term limits on ambassadorships.
Yeah.
That's like what I would love to do. I'd
Yeah.
love to be an appointed ambassador. So when the president likes you, the president is the one that appoints.
Yeah.
You want to be in her good graces.
Oh,
And
for
he
sure.
really bailed her out. He really bailed her out on that. So
Wow.
we'll see what happens. But
Interesting.
yeah, moving on. Uber is legal again in Broward.
Yes, it is. I'm very happy about
How
that.
awesome is
I
that?
knew it was going to happen. I had a conversation with a friend of mine a few weeks ago, and she was adamant. No, it's not going to happen. I was like, I guarantee you within the next 30 days. Boom, it happened.
I am so happy. I was resistant to Uber for a long time.
Were you?
Yeah, for no reason in particular until I tried it. And I was like, this is the bomb.
You know what? I don't want to say I was resistant, but I was wary of it because I had heard some horror stories. Like there was a story about somebody in India, which, it's India. So it, may have happened anyway.
Oh my goodness.
Not racial at all.
Stereotypical, not racial.
Right, exactly. And there was a story about an Uber driver that sexually assaulted his rider. So I was like, okay, this is scary. But, you've heard stories like that with taxi cab drivers too, and again, it's not a widespread thing. So I was a little kind of like hesitant to back Uber. But now, I have friends that are exclusively using it. I have friends that are driving for Uber and making a nice, pretty penny. So, I think it's a great thing that's finally.
I love it. I'm so glad that it never went away in Miami, and we used it down here. Sue and I use it all the time. And we use it in Broward. We actually we've stayed in Broward a few times, and when it went away, it really hurt us because the taxi service is literally 3 times the cost.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't believe how the variance between the two is crazy. And I love that you can, you don't have to give any cash or provide any, credit cards. Are you supposed to tip those guys?
They're not supposed to accept them.
They're not supposed to
They're
accept
not
them?
supposed to accept tips, but a lot of people still will tip them kind of like incognito.
Huh. Okay.
But yeah, they're not supposed to accept tips.
Because I don't tip them, and sometimes I feel bad about it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, should I have tipped them? But I had understood that they're that the compensation they receive kind of accounts for that.
Yeah.
So I've never really felt too guilty about it. And
it's
they've
an
never
80-20 split.
It's an
80
they get the
they
what?
get
The
80%.
Oh, they get the 80?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they make
That's
a
not
good.
bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They make. I mean, I know people that have quit their full-time jobs and they just exclusively Uber.
I didn't know it was 80-20.
Yeah.
Now I'm never going to tip because I know it ain't 80-20 in the cab business. So
Yeah, no.
And the cabs are also providing the cars and the infrastructure, whereas Uber, you're basically a rogue.
It's
independent
your car,
contractor.
Yeah, your car. You have to have your own insurance. And
I'm glad I brought it up because that's cool. Kind of a segue, in it's actually a pretty good segue into the next item. Tesla. Do you know who Elon Musk is?
No.
Okay, Elon Musk is a name that you're going to hear a lot. He's kind of like, do you know who Richard Branson is?
Yes.
Okay, so he's the new Richard Branson.
Oh, okay.
Elon Musk is the CEO of Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Those are those real nice looking, sweet rides. They're fully electric vehicles. They're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cars. He's also involved in a ton of other entrepreneurial ventures, but his big thing is Tesla. That's really where he's getting a lot of recognition. Anyway, Tesla, Elon Musk announced yesterday that Tesla is doing a software update for all their existing and new cars to implement self-driving vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay? So I wrote this down because I want to make sure I get it right. They're not fully self-driving. So here's the way it works. So they're not 100%, what's the word, autonomous or whatever.
Right.
They're just not. They still require some human interaction. So it won't take you from like point A to point B, but the car is going to detect all road signs. It's going to detect traffic signals.
Wow.
So it'll be able to recognize green light, red light. It will recognize pedestrians. And it'll pretty much do about 80% of the drive for you.
That's crazy.
Is that insane? And that's effective immediately. Like if you have a Tesla, a Model S, which is their main car, You can literally download the software right now, and you have that 80% self-driving mode. It's not 100%.
Right.
They still haven't figured out, for example, how to get your car to essentially drive itself into your driveway.
Right.
They haven't figured that out. And what do you do if you live in a condo building?
Yeah.
You know, like they're still working on those very, very important specifics because we're all thinking the same thing with these self-driving cars. I can get trashed.
Yep.
I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to hit a button that says home, and that thing's going to take me right to my front door.
Yep.
So this isn't quite there yet, but it's really, really, really close. When you're talking about you can download software now, and your car is going to be able to maneuver around the road, stop at a stop sign, yield at a yield sign, stop at a red light, and all that interaction is already going on today in October of 2015.
That's crazy.
It's nuts.
That is really
That's
crazy.
nuts.
It reminds me of the that scene in Minority Report when all the cars are driving themselves on those, you know, the freeways that are self-driving.
That's the future.
Yeah, and I read somewhere, I'm looking it up now, I can't find it, but I read somewhere that there's actually a freeway in Japan that does that, where the cars, I mean, it's specific to that freeway, where you can drive your car onto the freeway and let go, and the car drives itself because of the freeway technology, not the car. So you can put any car on that freeway and it does it. I'm like, wow.
I've been saying for a while, the next big revolution, the next big human revolution is going to be artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
Artificial intelligence is going to change our lives in such a dramatic way. And these autonomous cars and all the stuff that's going on with that is a window, a portal, if you will, into the new world of artificial intelligence, which is going to change our lives forever. It's going to be crazy.
Do you think that, I mean, with our thought on artificial intelligence thus far in, you know, science fiction movies and whatnot is disastrous, right? Every movie that we've seen artificial intelligence, it's been horrible. Do you think that's
the rise of the machines?
The rise of the machines. You got the Matrix. You've got AI. Every movie that has artificial intelligence, it's a bad world, right? Yeah. So do you think that that's more of a possibility than not?
Of course it's a possibility. As a matter of fact, Stephen Hawking is warning us against the dangers of artificial intelligence because essentially, you know, if the automation becomes sophisticated enough, it's gonna be able to know how to override your overrides.
Oh yeah, it'll be an iRobot situation.
Right, it'll be kind of like an iRobot situation. So. When the most brilliant mind that walks the earth today or rolls around the earth today, which is Mr. Hawking, is telling you, you know, keep an eye on that because it's dangerous. We should pay attention.
Bless you. You could just edit that out.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Real professional.
Right.
So yeah, I think AI is going to make like the Industrial Revolution look like a joke in terms of what it's going to do regarding human evolution. It's going to be crazy.
It's a scary
it's
proposition.
It's a scary proposition, but you're not going to be able to stop it.
Oh, no.
It's unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming like a freight train. There's no way to stop it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Last thing on current events, and then we'll move on, is Shake Shack, by the way. Have you been to Shake Shack?
I've never been there. I've heard a lot of friends call it Chuck Puke. So I'm never going to go there. Yeah,
No.
I've never been
Shake
there.
Shack is delicious. But that's coming from a guy who thinks McDonald's cheeseburgers are delicious.
Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt. But nonetheless, Shake Shack is implementing a no-tip policy. When you go to Shake Shack and you purchase a burger, even though you're literally walking up to the counter, buying the burger and so on and so forth, they still leave a tip line. I hate when they do that, but you know they have that line, and then you feel guilty when you put zero on there.
Oh no, I don't feel guilty then.
I do. I feel guilty.
Not if it's something like that where you go up and you pay for your food. And
so when you go to Chili's, if you buy something from Chili's and you go through the pickup window, you never tip on the receipt.
No.
See, I always do. I feel bad about that. Anyway, they're eliminating tipping altogether.
And New York restaurants are doing that as well.
Right. That was where I was going. Was a lot of New York City restaurants are doing it. I love the idea of no tipping.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Not because of anything, because it's going to hurt us as consumers, because our prices are going to go up. Everyone is going to supplement that change in policy by raising your prices, because what they're doing is giving the servers obviously salaries and you know benefits and all that other stuff that they don't get now.
Right.
The reason I love it is because I think it's great for the service industry. You know, I think it's good for the people that work there. Waiting tables and being a busboy and doing all those things, that's really hard
It
work.
really is.
It's brutal.
I was a waitress for about 5 minutes, and I was like, I'm not doing this again.
It's brutal work.
Yeah,
it
it's
could
miserable.
be terribly unfair, especially when you get people who don't tip
Yeah.
going in there are really bad tippers because they're counting on. 80% of their take home is basically tips, right?
Yeah.
So it could be a really brutal line of work. So I love the fact that a lot of restaurants are going in that direction.
Yeah.
Because it really helps those workers and they deserve it. But
Yeah.
keep an eye out for that. That's gonna be the new trend, hopefully,
Yeah.
in a lot of places. Moving along. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about sports. I know you're not into the foosball.
Sports ball. It's called sports
Ball. So there's a couple things going on noteworthy. In baseball, there's in the American League. There's two, basically
I'm
two.
familiar.
I don't know how deep I got to go here. So
let me just give you a little bit of backstory. I used to be a so huge Marlins and Dolphins fan,
all right.
and to the point, like when I was a Dolphins fan, I knew every player on every team and their stats. Like I was obsessive over it. But then they made me cry one too many times, and I had to stop watching football altogether. And then with the Marlins, the second time that they were dismantled after the second World Series that they won, I was like, I'm done. So I'm familiar with the concept of the sports ball, but I don't follow them now.
You're going to get me with that sports ball. I'm going to start calling it sports ball. So in the American League, it's down to two teams, the Blue Jays and the Kansas City Royals, who nobody's going to care about. What's interesting, and the reason I brought it up, is because in the National League, the Cubs are playing in the National League Championship Series, and they're going to be playing either the Mets or the Dodgers. That still hasn't been determined. But either one of those teams are huge, historic teams, right? So the National League championship is going to be extremely interesting. The Cubs haven't won a championship in something like 100 years.
Yeah, like 1908 or something.
Yeah,
like
like
that.
1908.
This is the year it could happen because Back to the Future predicted.
Is that right? Back to the Future predicted this?
In 2000, in Back to the Future 2, Marty McFly went into the future on October 21st, 2015. And he sees the screen. Do you remember the movie?
No. I don't remember this particular scene. I haven't seen Back to the Future in 25, 30 years.
Okay, well, he's in Hill Valley, right? And he's in the main area where the clock tower's at. And he sees this news screen. And it announces the Cubs win the World Series against the Miami Gators.
Wow.
And the joke is then, Marty is like, wow. Miami didn't have a team when that movie came out. But the guy he's talking to is like, yeah, can you believe it? The Cubs finally won. So
wow, I didn't know
it
that.
Would be I think that it would just be really awesome for there to be that serendipitous win for them.
That would be prophetic.
2015.
Unbelievable. So keep an eye on that because, again, whether it's the Mets or the Dodgers, that particular series, and I'm not a baseball guy, but I'll watch that. I'll watch the Cubs against the Dodgers or the Cubs against the Mets because there's so much history riding on that. Yeah. Especially I hope the Cubs win. I really do. I love Chicago. Chicago's like one of my top 3 favorite cities in America. I love it. I love going there. The NFL's in full swing. You're going to be very happy to know that I am undefeated in one of my fantasy football leagues.
I'm very happy for you.
I know. I figured you'd welcome that news with open arms. I'm actually in 2 fantasy football leagues. Fantasy football has taken over.
Yeah.
And it's just such huge business. So I'm undefeated in one, and I'm 3-2 in the other league. So I'm quite proud of myself. I'm off to a good start.
Good
naturally, I just jinxed myself. So
right,
by the end of the year, it'll be a disaster. But rarely do I do well in fantasy football, so I'm actually happy about it.
Yeah.
It's big business. Have you seen? There's a couple of companies that are banking on it now.
Yeah.
DraftKings.
I've been seeing the commercials all over. There was a huge infomercial on for like an hour and a half.
Oh yeah,
the other day.
if you watch an NFL game now, it's all DraftKings. It's all FanDuel is the other real big site. They're going through some controversy now because apparently the employees in these companies, they're betting on each other's sites and they're making tons of money. Like some guy won like $300,000 last week. Who works for DraftKings? He won the money on FanDuel.
Oh wow!
So apparently there's like insider trading of some sort.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. I don't know the specifics of it. But it was announced this morning that the FBI is now doing a formal investigation into these websites for 2 reasons. Number 1, they're going to look into the insider trading portion of it. But number 2, they're looking into really the legality of the websites themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it's essentially legalized gambling. We
Yep.
can gamble right now in a state that doesn't allow gambling
Yep.
outside of like Indian reservations, right?
Right.
Or casinos, I'm sorry. So that's being called into question. A few years ago when poker was really big, there were some big poker websites.
Yeah.
There was Full Tilt, I think it was called, Poker Stars.
Yeah.
All those websites got destroyed by the government.
I
because
used to play a lot on partypoker.com.
do you play Texas Hold'em?
I do.
Really? Mm-hmm. Huh. We'll talk about that offline because I'm always looking. We do poker games here in the house.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we're always looking for players.
I love Texas Hold'em.
Most of the people that gamble down here, they'll play blackjack and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but they don't play Hold'em.
Yeah.
You love? Does Frank play Hold'em too?
He says he does, but I don't think he really gets it.
Mm.
So he's a big craps guy. He loves craps.
He
That's
knows
his-
how to play craps. I have never met a human being that can explain that freaking
He's
game.
explained it to me 1,000 times, and every time I'm like just glassy eyed. I'm like, I don't get it. And whenever we go to Vegas, I'm at the slot machines with my dad, and he's playing craps the entire time. And he does really well. One time he won like $400.
Wow, I watch people play craps, and I'm like, what the hell's going on
I
here?
have no idea how
No
that game
idea.
is so complicated. It's
Snake
ridiculous.
eyes? I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
I
in
mean,
that
I know
game.
what snake eyes means, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad
That's
thing.
exactly right.
I'm
There's the
like,
dude
what?
with the little stick. I don't
Yeah.
know what's happening in this game.
No idea, but
people
he loves
blowing
it.
on dice. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's probably the one game that I don't play. I'm gonna go to New Orleans in December, and we're gonna be staying by a Harrah's there. And I haven't been in a casino that kind of does it all in a while. That's not true. I go to the Hard Rock quite a bit, but
Yeah, but they don't do it all.
They don't. I guess not. So I want to be in that environment and
Yeah.
maybe play a little bit. I have a rule like I'll do $200 or $300, and when I lose, I'm out. Like I'm not the kind of
yeah,
guy
no, me
that will
too.
be like, I gotta get my money back. I'll do it for fun. But
Yeah, I like to play roulette too. Roulette's fun.
roulette's fun because it's easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Black.
You just got to know how to
black,
bet.
red. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just got to know how to bet, and it's
What
easy.
each one means and
Yeah.
whatever. One day I literally had maybe $5 in chips, and
Yeah.
I just walked up to a roulette table. We were getting ready to go to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
I just dropped it on one number. It hit, and I made a bunch of money. I was
Wow.
like, let's go.
Yeah, I think you get like 35. I think it's like 35 times
35 to 1 or
30.
something.
Yeah, and you get a huge return on that. So that's great. That's cool.
Yeah.
Last thing in MMA, I love mixed martial arts. So I'll try to squeeze it into all of our sports discussions. But Ronda Rousey's fighting a lady named Holly Holm, who's a former professional boxer, and they're fighting in about 3 weeks. Ronda Rousey is a huge cash cow for the
for
UFC. What's your opinion on her? She hosted SportsCenter like I want to say about a week ago. She's everywhere. She's got a million commercials going on. But she has nobody left to fight. Like she literally has.
I've just
one left.
recently been learning about her because I've been seeing craziness all over the interwebs about her for a while, and I was like, well, let me look into this girl because she seems to be popular for a reason. I love her.
Yeah.
She is a beast in so many ways, and not just the physicality of it, like her personality. I love her.
She's
I
the
love her.
truth. She is so good for MMA, and she's great for women. She's great for women, period. She's
Yeah.
super empowering. And she is the deadliest woman that walks the earth. Like, nobody can beat this woman.
Yeah, she's been having who is it, the boxer that she's been talking to, trading, media jabs with? Floyd? No. Mayweather?
Oh, yeah. She's
that who it
always...
is?
Oh, she's in a verbal war with Mayweather. She's fighting a boxer now. She is fighting
Yeah,
Holly
no, I
Holm,
just meant a
but-
male boxer.
Oh, no.
She's-
Oh, yeah, Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, I would love to see that fight.
It'll never happen.
No, I know it won't, but
it'll never
it
happen.
would be awesome to see that fight.
I
That's
had
a fight I would watch.
I had a debate with a bunch of my friends because I believe in a street fight, she will destroy him. She
Yeah.
will kill this guy. Naturally, if he connects with a punch, of course, he'll beat her.
Right.
But she's extremely elusive. She's an Olympic level wrestler. And I think she'll break his arm. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a small guy.
Yeah.
And she walks around at about 150, 160.
And all he can do is punch.
And all he can do is punch and run. Not her.
No,
I don't
she's-
think she'll knock him out, even though she knocked out her last opponent, but it was a woman. She won't knock him out. She'll smother him. She'll slam him down. Like I said, she's an Olympic level judo practitioner.
Yeah.
She knows how to close the distance and inflict some punishment. It'd be interesting to watch for
Yeah,
sure.
I would
My
definitely
money would be on her. But anyway, last thing that we want to do is you had introduced me last week to the book of questions, and I thought it would be a really interesting segment so essentially for those of you guys listening in, it's Nancy's got a book with all sorts of like provocative and interesting, thought-provoking questions that I thought would be kind of neat to bring up and talk about. And I think for those that are listening to the show, it's certainly something that can be some nice dinner fodder, when the conversation's running low. So we'll try to do this every week. We'll squeeze a minimum of 1, maybe 2 in, but let's see where the conversation takes us. So what do you have there? How many questions are in this book? Let's start with that.
Has, over 200 questions.
Wow.
And there's like addendums to the questions too, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one that I thought would be a good one to start with, since, we are of opposite genders. Do you prefer being around men or women?
Mm-hmm.
And do your closest friends tend to be men or women?
I prefer being around men. That came out great.
Yeah, it sure did.
I prefer being around men because I find that with exceptions, there are exceptions.
Of course.
Naturally, I co-host a podcast with you because you and I can probably run this thing for 4 or 5 hours and just talk and talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
We have good chemistry in that regard. However, I do find that I have more fun, generally speaking with men and hanging out with guys because, we talk about sports, and most women don't talk about sports, and most guys, at least the ones in my circle, are fanatical about sports.
Yeah.
So there's always something to talk about relative to sports. There's also a lot of ego involved between males, and that opens the door to, conflict isn't the right word, but a lot of impassioned discussions, right?
Yeah.
So we do that, and that's, again, some people don't like that. I find that to be fun, and I learn a lot doing stuff like that. And when boys are together, you look at girls and you go, look at that one and look at this one. It's just the kind of stuff that you would feel that would be inappropriate, discussing or throwing out there with some of your girlfriends. So I personally prefer hanging out with the fellas. I love the camaraderie of it all, and I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy for both genders to be around their gender by themselves. But I prefer hanging out with them. I think most women's answers will be different, but you tell me.
First things first, I don't think this answer is going to surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer being around men.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my friends have been men my entire life. I've always gravitated more towards men. And I may just completely offend my entire gender, but women tend to be catty. Women tend to be catty and dramatic, and I don't have energy for that. And every female friendship I've ever, with the exception of 3, every female friendship I have had has blown up in some kind of drama. Every single one, except for the 3. And the 3, they are all, and Frank says this to me all the time, we're basically dudes in a chick's body. So, like my best friend, she and I, if we have an issue, it's like, hey, you did this. Oh, sorry, my bad. Okay, squash and move on. Most women, it's like, wah, and again, I'm sorry if I'm offending my demographic, but it's much easier to have a friendship with a guy. Now, you always get into that element of, can a guy and a girl, the Harry Met Sally issue, right? Can a guy and a girl really be friends without sex being
Platonic,
an issue?
Yeah.
I feel like that you can.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of many guys who I've been friends with who haven't wanted to get in my pants. But that's just because guys are guys, right? But I don't think that...
Primal.
Yeah, I think it's just... I don't think it has anything to do with me specifically. I just think it's because of, it's a gender thing. And if a girl is hanging around a dude, a lot of times guys do think that there's a reason why you're hanging around with them. Like, there's an ulterior motive. Oh, maybe
They'll jump to conclusions.
Right. So, me personally, I like hanging out with guys just because a lot of the stuff that you said, I agree with. It's, the ego thing, I'm like one of the guys when I hang out with the guys. I may not talk about sports, but, I've got a lot of other things that I am very opinionated about. Women tend not to like me in general. And I've been told many, many times that, I'm intimidating or they're threatened by me or things like that. With Beachbody, I've met a lot of women that I click with so much more than I ever have in my life. And I think a lot of that has to do with personal development and then the empowerment that Beachbody gives to us as, girl bosses or, whatever you want to call it. But
would it be unfair to say that women are typically a little bit more insecure, and their insecurities affect their personalities and make them difficult to be around at times?
I think that...
Is there any truth to that?
There's a little truth to that. What I think is that I think men can be equally insecure. I think women are more open about showing it. Mm-hmm. I think men hide it more because they look at it as a weakness. Women are a little more okay with expressing their insecurities or even acting them out. And they probably don't think that their behavior has to do with an insecurity. They may deflect and think, like, for example, if there's a couple and the guy sees a girl walking by and he checks her out, most women will get mad at the guy and be like, why are you checking her out? Because she's insecure about herself. Me, I notice the girl 20 minutes before Frank does, and I like what you see. All right. I laugh it off, but that's because I'm not insecure about that kind of stuff, so I think, there isn't a certain element that happens because of insecurity, but I don't think it has to do with subjective to women or men.
You have to know that you're the exception.
I know that. Oh, I know that for sure.
Because most women are not like that.
I know. And that's why I said, I don't think this answer is going to surprise you.
It doesn't surprise me. That's why I even said before I lobbed it over to you that I had a feeling what you were going to say, but Sue, my wife, is identical to you in that regard. If this question was posed to her, she would 100% say, I would much rather hang out with the fellas, And my friends consider Sue one of the guys. Yeah. I mean, they'll openly say she's like one of the guys. I mean, come on. So we'll go watch a football game. There's 10 guys there. It's okay for Sue to be there. Yep. It won't be uncomfortable in any way because she is like, one of the guys. And she has some very, very, very close female friends, but she can count them on one hand.
Yeah, me too.
The vast majority of her friendships are with dudes for pretty much the entire laundry list of reasons that you described. Cattiness and sometimes those small disagreements or whatever become volatile, get blown up out of proportion, and all of a sudden it's war. So it's really an interesting thing. I gravitate to women like you and Sue, who I do see as one of the guys. Yeah. And I can have a comfortable discussion with. There's way too many women, however, that are not that way. Yeah. And they're very, it's proper to be like this, and this has to be this way, and this is a line that you cannot cross, and that's okay. It's just not me. It's just
and going back to what I said about like guys checking girls out and things like that. I will check a girl out and be like, oh, she's pretty hot. Most women are threatened by a good-looking girl, or they don't talk about that kind of stuff with their male friends. They wouldn't ever talk about like objectifying a girl. They would never participate in that conversation. I don't have a problem with it, and that may be strange to a lot of people, but I'm comfortable with it. It's like,
would you accompany Frank to like a strip bar?
I have many times.
Oh, yeah.
We went for my birthday.
Oh, you invited me. I forgot. That's true. That's 100% true. Okay. So, because that's usually for me, it's a good identifier of the kind of women that I can be friends with and the kind of women that I can't be friends with. Yeah. It sounds crazy that's like the barometer for me, but it really is. Yeah. If I ask a woman, would you go with your husband or your boyfriend to a strip bar? She's like, oh my God, that's disgusting. I don't need you in my life.
Yeah, I don't need that kind of negativity.
I don't need, exactly. I don't need that kind of pooper in my life. So, get out of here. I don't need to see that. But when a woman says, oh, absolutely, or yeah, I do, as a matter of fact, it's not a sexual thing. It's nothing. It has nothing to do with any of that. I just see it as your ability as a woman to display open-mindedness. Yeah. And a woman who's open-minded and doesn't have that jealous streak in her, to not get on top of her husband or her boyfriend when he looks at another girl. Yeah. I think that's the right way to be. That's just me. I'm probably wrong, or I'm definitely in the minority, I'm sure.
I don't think there's right or wrong. I think it's just based on you and your personality and your preferences and your relationship, right? Because the way I am with Frank, I would have not been with a couple of my exes. And not because I was different, although I am a little different than I used to be. I think there was a lot different in our relationship, in my previous relationships, that would not, like, I would have never gone to a strip club with my ex-husband.
Sure.
You know?
But because of him or because of you?
I think it would have been more him than me, but certain element would have been me, just because I wouldn't have felt comfortable with him in that
because
atmosphere.
of him. Yeah, and there are guys like that too.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there's tons of guys that are like, I'm not going to take my wife or my girlfriend to a strip club or whatever.
Yeah, because most guys feel weird about staring at a naked girl with their woman right next to them, you know? Now, Frank does, it's so funny what Frank does. Like, if I get up and go to the restroom while we're at the strip club, he will, like, not make eye contact with, you know, because you know the rule. If you make eye contact with a stripper, she's coming to you.
over. Oh, yeah.
So
sure.
he's like looking side to side so that he doesn't make eye contact with her. And then one time, this stripper actually came up to him, started trying to give him a lap dance, and he's sitting there with his arms extended, like, I'm not touching her. I'm not touching her. When I walk back, I'm like, hey, how you having fun? He's like, I didn't put my hands on her, I swear. So it's like, as long as I'm physically there, he feels like he's okay. And then if I'm gone, he's like, uh-oh. I don't want anything. It's funny.
That's
but
hilarious.
yeah, no, we go all the time. Like I said, we went for my birthday. I was like, I want to go here for my birthday. He's like, I'm not going to say no to that.
That's hilarious. So, all right. So general consensus, dudes are more fun to hang out with. Let's do one more and then wrap it up. But that was a great question. That's a great topic.
All right. One more. All right. This one is a little bit more.
The book of questions.
This is another gender one, but it's kind of goes in a little bit of a different direction. Maybe not.
Hit me.
How would you react if you were to learn that your mate had a lover of the same sex before you knew each other?
Again, that is a gender one because I think a male's reaction would be different from a woman's.
Absolutely.
So my reaction would be absolutely don't give a damn.
Yeah.
Don't care, doesn't factor in any way. Kind of a turn on. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, and that's because it's from a male perspective, and not that I'm a male, but it's more socially acceptable for, girl on girl action.
Sure. Right.
So,
right.
Like me personally, it wouldn't bother me at all, but my thing would be more.
I think that most women, and I don't know, I'll get hate for this or whatever, but I think most women have a curiosity to them. That again, I think it's chemical. I don't. Because women are beautiful. I think I believe in intelligent design, and I think women were created a certain way that taps into our minds and triggers certain attraction points, right? But I think it holds true for all genders. That's how beautiful women are. A woman's body is incredible. Yeah. a man's body is horrific. It's like a wooden board, and there's really nothing attractive about it. Like I don't know how women could find men attractive, but they do. And again, it's a chemical thing,
right?
But I think a lot of women, a very very large number in terms of the population, they have that little curiosity to them.
Absolutely.
Whereas it does not apply to men.
Oh no, absolutely. Right. I know. I mean, there are guys that I know that are curious. But I agree 100%. There's a lot of women, a large majority, and there are women that have that curiosity but would never admit it, but give them a couple drinks and, I have a shot glass that says instant lesbian, just add alcohol. And I'm like, well, now an addendum.
The shoe fits.
To that question. How would
well, I want to hear the answer. I want to hear your answer. What if you found out that Frank
Oh, no, it wouldn't bother me at all.
It wouldn't bother you?
It wouldn't
That's
bother
so
me. My issue would be if I didn't know. Like if, we've been together for 5 years and now suddenly he told me, I'd be like, why did you hold this back for 5 years? That would be my issue.
That's interesting.
Just tell me, because I'm very open. One of the, when Frank and I were first dating, I would share stories with him about my previous relationships, my previous sexual experiences, and he was weirded out by that because he'd never been with a girl that was so open. And I'm like, well, there's no reason not to. Like, what? That's stupid. Like, share. Like, it's part of who I am is my experiences, right? So if that's something that happened, I feel like by now he should have said something.
Right.
So my issue would be more like the secrecy of it than the actual act. So it wouldn't bother me.
Wow, I think most women
they'd be
would
grossed
have a totally different point of view.
Absolutely.
I even think Sue would too.
You think so?
Yeah, I think she would be like, I think she would find it extremely odd.
Really?
At a minimum, yeah.
No, I'm just like, okay, whatever.
That's interesting.
Wouldn't bother me.
What's the addendum to
The
it?
addendum is, how would you react if you found out that your partner was of a different gender previously, before you met them?
Okay, for me, that's a showstopper.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I feel that I've been betrayed in a very, very intimate and personal way, and I'd find it unforgivable.
So do you think that, like, let's say hypothetically, if you and Sue were dating, right, and you started...
Have we had relations yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
But you started feeling things and you were falling in love and whatever. And let's say you were getting to that point, and then she said to you, okay, but before we do this, that, I need to tell you this. Would that make a difference?
That is such a hard question. That's a tough question. And she's gone through the whole operation and everything?
Yep.
Got all the lady parts?
She's a full-on girl.
I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah?
Yeah. As long as, full disclosure.
Right.
And it happened before we were intimate. And all the lady parts are there. And I'm in love.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah. So if you weren't in love, it would make a difference for you.
It would make a difference for me. Yeah, like if I just met someone and they told me on our first date, look, I used to be Charlie or George, I'd be like,
Gotta go.
It's going to be hard for me to get over that. But
Yeah.
But once I've got such an emotional investment to the point where I'm in love,
Yeah.
I think I'd be able to see past it because at that point, I take being in love very, very seriously.
Yeah.
I still tell my wife every day that I'm in love with her. We've been together 18 years. I think it's an important thing. I hate when people say, over time you're going to fall out of love.
Yeah.
And you'll just love the person, but you're not going to be in love with them. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I don't believe that at
I'm right
all.
there with you.
Because I think generally speaking, that's probably true. But what I don't believe is that it can't happen.
Right.
So going back to the Bruce Jenner thing, if I was in love, yeah, I probably see past it, but it'd be tough.
Let me tell you, I have a friend who is transgender. She is 100% gone through the entire procedure. She's actually they're doing a documentary on her. She's doing a GoFundMe now to release it. But in her journey, she's actually shared a lot with me. And one of the things that she told me was that she has found that a lot of supposedly straight men have been before she had her final surgery, were very, very curious. And she said, you'd be surprised how many guys claim to be completely against that. And they're like, no. But once they find out that I still got my man parts, they're like, let me see. And they really, they want to participate. And she said that was really an eye-opener for her. It surprised her. Because these are men that are like, a man's man. They're really, they're straight
tough
guys that are
yeah.
completely anti, anything homosexual. And they are so curious about it. And I think it just goes to, a lot of people have thoughts that they feel like they can't express because they might be judged. So I think there's an element of society that,
I
thinks
believe
about that kind of stuff.
Not an element. I believe everybody does. I believe everybody's got their secrets.
Oh, for sure.
And I believe everybody's got their thing.
Yeah.
And everybody's got... sometimes you'll have silly discussions like, if you could have one power, what would it be?
Yeah.
And some guy will say, I wish I could fly. Another guy will say, wishes he could be super strong.
Right.
And you'll always hear the one person that says, I wish I can read people's minds.
Yeah.
Hell no. I would never want that power.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want it because speaking for myself, we think some crazy shit.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't make us bad people, but the things that we think about and some of the desires that people have, and I'm not talking just sexually.
Right.
I mean, there's people that get a thrill out of like killing cats and stuff like that. And there's just weird stuff out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got their secrets, and I think as we're moving on and as we're progressing as a society, I think it's becoming more and more acceptable to express and act out what those typically taboo secrets or urges might be.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see that. Like, I'm starting to see where it's okay to be transgender.
Yeah.
It's okay
and I think
to...
Part of that is just the society we live in now is so online. You know, everything's out there, right? So like what you said before about, you know, people can't get away with stuff anymore. It's kind of the same concept. The beauty of social media and the internet has basically created this world where whatever your fetish, whatever your propensity is, there you can find somebody out there that's like you. Just go on the internet.
Go on the internet.
You know, there are websites for people that are, you know, want, you know, virgin panties, and there's crazy fetishes out there that everyday people would think are weird, but there's a whole group of them gathering online.
There's a website called Reddit. And Reddit is one of the most popular websites in the world. It's got to be one of the top 10 most visited websites in the world.
Yeah.
I love Reddit because it's a great time waster. But if you go on Reddit, if you download the application, if you don't have Reddit downloaded, it's available on all the different operating systems. And what's really cool about it is that it has a standard set of categories like news and jokes and pictures and stuff like that you can click on. But the really neat thing about Reddit are the subforums, right?
Yeah.
But in order to get to the subforums, you got to essentially find them. So, for example, you can type in Colombian soccer players in the search engine within Reddit, and it takes you to a bunch of subforums where people have created the forums just to discuss Colombian soccer players.
Right.
You can put anything in there. I guarantee you that if you're into milking cows, you can put milking cow fetish, and milking cow fetish will come up as a subforum to support your point. Everything is out there. And these internet engines and resources are allowing people to communicate with one another based on the whatever floats their boat, which is something that never existed before.
Exactly.
So if that's you, if you're listening to this podcast and
you want
to talk to somebody about your unusual desire to be with whatever or whoever, go on Reddit. There's going to be a sub forum, and you're gonna
find a whole lot of people.
You're gonna find your peeps.
Yeah,
you're gonna find your peeps. All right, so we're coming up on. We ran a little long today, but again, it's always so cool speaking with you. It's
I
always
talking
such
to you too,
it's a
my
great
friend.
discussion. We didn't even get to some of the other stuff that I had wanted to talk about, but that's cool. We'll do it.
Next time.
Yeah, we'll do it next time. Awesome. Any parting thoughts? Parting shots?
I think I'm gonna leave it at that, and go have a drink and kiss a girl. That's just my advice for the day.
Wow. All right. We'll build on that next time. We'll build on that. There's going to be some interest. I have a friend, actually. Her name is Denise, who's really good. She's really good at this kind of thing. And I think she wants to come on a few times and talk with us. She'd be a great person because she's no filter. I mean, this woman has no filter.
Let's bring her.
But she'll keep it classy, but I love getting the perspective of, like I said, open-minded women who are not afraid to be politically incorrect. So it should be cool. Nancy, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my
What's
friend.
What's your website again?
Website is nansanity.com or nancyandrade.com.
Check her out. She rocks. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.